Summer's just around the corner and the days are getting warmer. Itching to get back out on the water, you decide this is the year you're gonna get that brand new John boat and take it out to the lake. After everything that happened last year, we can't take life for granted, right? You're just about ready to make the commitment, but a few questions make you hesitate. What motor should I get? Is this boat big enough for my needs? Do I even need that fish finder? After nearly 2.5 years of experience maintaining a John boat, we have a few pointers that will help you get organized before making that big purchase. One of the most important things that you should do when thinking about buying a new John boat is to recognize your situation. Fishing and boating is a field that is very circumstantial, where a lot of factors depend on your specific needs. For example, a 12-foot John boat may be the perfect size for one boater, but fishing with 1 or 2 guests might be asking too much from that same boat. We get a lot of questions in the comments asking for very specific answers, and we're not really in a position to provide that. Now, don't get me wrong, we love having conversations with our viewers and exchanging ideas and whatnot, but only you know your own situation, so it's still in your hands to make an informed decision. To help you guys out with this, here's a few questions to ask yourself when you're buying a new John boat. Number 1. What waters will you be fishing in? This will help you to determine a lot of the specifics about your John boat. For example, let's say you're worried about stability and you're between a 14-foot John boat and a 12-footer. If you do your fishing out in the ocean, you definitely have to worry more about wake than in a small pond, which would justify the purchase of the bigger boat. Taking the boat out in salt water would also require more maintenance in keeping it clean, which is something else to keep in mind. The size of your motor will also depend on what waters you fish in. In some areas, you could probably get away with a small trolling motor to get around, but if you plan to traverse waters tens of miles long, like in the ocean or a big lake, you'll definitely need something more robust. Understanding the waters of where you plan to fish will help you make a more informed purchase. Number 2. How far do you plan to fish from your launching site? I feel like this question is often overlooked. Most people assume that if you have a boat, you should take it as far as you can, which would justify the purchase of a bigger engine. Sometimes though, your fishing spots are not really that far from the launching site, and you can make do with a small engine like a 4 horsepower or even a trolling motor. Safety plays a role with this topic as well. For example, you could probably tolerate a faulty engine if you're fishing in a residential canal since you'd be close to land. But you'd probably prefer a bigger and more reliable engine if you plan to fish miles away from shore. This could be the difference between buying a cheaper used engine versus a brand new one. Number 3. How many people will be on your boat? This will help you determine what size John boat to buy. For reference, we have a Tracker 1236 wide John boat, which can handle 480 pounds of maximum load. The two of us can get out on the water with all of our modifications and gear, but we wouldn't be able to handle a third boater without removing some of that gear. Also, keep in mind that the amount of weight on your boat will limit your speed, which will have implications towards your motor of choice. Number 4. What kind of an experience do you want for your John boat? I get it. Some people are very simple, they want a John boat so that they can get out on the water. But many of our viewers like to customize their John boats with many different modifications that suit their individual needs. When installing things like a casting deck or a safety equipment hatch, you need to be aware of several features. For example, does the John boat you're looking at have foam underneath the desired hatch location? In our case, the safety equipment hatch did not have flotation foam underneath, so we weren't sacrificing any buoyancy with this mod. What about a casting deck? Our casting deck weighs about 40 pounds, which is something we need to keep in mind when we're prepping the boat for a fishing excursion so that we don't go over the 480 pound maximum load. Another consideration we've made for the John boat is the avoidance of excess drilling and cutting into the boat. While we do have permanently cut rod holders and hatches, we have removable seats and a glued-on transducer mount. Limiting drilling and cutting helps add to the flexibility of the boat, which is something you may want out of your experience. Number 5. What do you plan to use the boat for? The answer to this question has many different consequences. For example, you wouldn't want to buy a small motor if you intended to use the boat for tubing or water skiing in the case of a bigger boat. If you want to fish around docks and pilings, you may want to get a trolling motor to finesse your way around structure, while keeping a gas motor in the back to do the heavy-duty traveling. The way you use your boat will also affect the mods you install. As we mentioned earlier, our front casting deck weighs about 40 pounds, which is around 8% of the boat's total maximum weight capacity. If you need more weight or even more space, you may decide to exclude this mod from your build. We also have a fish finder that some people have asked if they should include in their own builds. We personally use the fish finder when we're fishing in unexplored waters, and we find it more of a luxury than a necessity. If you're on a budget, it's definitely a mod that can be saved for another time. That leads me to the budgeting aspect. John boats are one of the best entry-level boats because they are highly customizable, yet staggeringly cheap compared to most other boats. For example, a Mako Pro Skiff, which is another common entry-level boat, will easily run over $17,000. Our entire setup, with mods and all, costs us about $4,000. Now, of course, the John boat is not as sophisticated as a Mako Pro Skiff, but that's the beauty of the John boat. It's a highly flexible vehicle that can be adjusted to satisfy a very niche need. There's no need to install wired lighting or stereo speakers, which will save you a tremendous amount of money in the long run. Here's a reference to some of our mods and the prices we calculated for them. John boat customization is a great idea for those on a budget. Still need some convincing? Let me go over some of the notable aspects of our John boat and its usage to see if you can relate in some ways. We use our boat almost exclusively in saltwater in the Florida Keys. Many people think that this kind of boat is a freshwater exclusive, but that couldn't be any further from the truth. We take the boat out to local canals, docks, and mangrove areas fishing for anything that bites. We use a Mercury 6 horsepower outboard motor to head out on the channel to reach our destinations, and we plan to add a trolling motor to better maneuver around structure. The space can be a bit tight with the two of us aboard, especially with all of our bait coolers and tackle bags, but one step up on the casting deck feels as free as the state of Florida. Stability is almost a non-factor as the boat itself can handle some of the toughest wake, and the rubber kitchen mats on the floor help us keep a grip on an otherwise slippery boat. When we bring the boat back in, we make sure to flush the motor and clean the boat thoroughly with salt removing products. When we're done using it for a while, we take the boat out of the water and store it under a cover, while the motor ends up indoors. By taking these precautions, we have used the John boat to its fullest without having any major hardware failures. So now you know a little bit more about John boats and how we use ours. Will you be buying your own in time for the new fishing season? Let us know in the comments below. I also want to thank Jason, one of our commenters that inspired me to make this video. We had a conversation exchanging ideas for his own build and some of the pointers mentioned in this video. We hope that this channel will continue to be a place for boaters to collaborate, swap ideas, and tell stories. Feel free to leave any comments, concerns, or ideas down below. And make sure to let us know what kinds of videos you'd like to see from us this summer. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.